Y'all, it's your boy Easy, and on today's episode of Easy Opens, we're going to be talking about Hasbro's Marvel Legends Marrow. So Marrow was created by Jeff Loeb and David Brewer and first appeared in Cable number 15 from September of 1994. Her alter ego goes by the name of Sarah. She's a human mutant with superhuman strength, stamina, durability, agility, reflexes, and tracking abilities. She has controlled bone growth, a healing factor, street fighting skills, weapon proficiency. She also has 2 hearts, has been a member of S.H.I.E.L.D., Weapon X, the Morlocks, X-Force, X-Men, and Gene Nation. She's also teamed up with and dated Spider-Man, but she's probably most famous from her appearance in Marvel vs. Capcom 2. So she comes in the standard Hasbro Marvel Legends box that they've been using for a while now, and it's fine, but we're not here to talk about the box. Let's get this figure free from its plastic prison and see what we think about Marrow. So fresh out the box, I dig this figure. I mean, I've really always liked this figure, especially from seeing them in Marvel vs. Capcom 2, and just really enjoyed their character in the books. And I really liked this look for her. And I think that Hasbro, just as far as looks go and just, first thoughts, I think they did a great job here. She looks great. Her suit looks great. The colors work. The gold on the shoulders and the hips and that goes around the waist and everything is really cool and makes the character pop a little bit more because it's like a shiny gold. And then the color scheme is okay. It's green and blue. That's fine. It works well with the gold. But then you have the bone protrusions that are really cool, especially the ones on the back. They look awesome. They're pretty sturdy. And my favorite thing is that they're all different. Not one of them is exactly the same. There's like some variations all throughout. And then the little bone rib cage thing and then the knees are really neat. They're also differently shaped, so they're not just like identical pieces. And then on the back, she has some more protrusions on her spine that are really cool. And then she happens to be very calipagious, if I do say so myself. A lot of Marvel Legends female characters tend to have capes, so you don't really have a lot of focus on this area too often with the female figures. And so when I was reviewing her, I was just like, oh, okay, yeah, no, that someone took time to really make that look as good as it does. And so that's that. And yeah, I mean, she looks really cool. She feels good. She has some heft to her, so she doesn't feel cheap or too frail or anything. And the other thing is that her face sculpt is very nice. It's strong, but yet still attractive and not just in any one way. It's just kind of like just really good. And what I mean by that is that in line with the character. However, I do kind of wish that she would have come with a separate head that was a little bit more angry and aggressive. This one is kind of like stern and neutral, but with hints towards a little bit of aggression and seriousness and whatever. But like, if we would have got one with her mouth open and like her teeth showing, like she's like in the middle of a fight or something, I would have loved that. And then her hair is fine. It's short. It's got a ton of detail in it. And she's got the one little part that's coming down. And yeah, it looks great. So yeah, fresh out the box, I'm very happy with this figure. Marrow comes with 4 interchangeable hands, 2 bone swords, and 2 Nemesis Build-A-Figure parts. All right, so now let's take a look at the articulation you're going to get out of Marrow. So starting at the head, you get 360 at the neck. She can look up a little bit, but not a whole lot. And then down, not really a whole lot either. She's got some good side-to-side head movement there, but, not much else. Then moving on to the shoulders, you got 360 at the shoulder. However, the bones on the back do impede that, but you can still get the arm around and, you can still twist it all the way, kind of like without moving the arm in the back. But she's also got a up and down joint there as well, so plenty of movement there. She's got 360 at the bicep. She's got double jointed elbows. She's got a 360 wrist swivel, as well as a joint in the wrist for some wrist action. Then moving on to the torso, she's got 360 at the chest, I guess is what we're going to call that. And she can look back or bend back quite a bit, and forward not so much, really. I mean, you can kind of make it work a little bit, but with the legs, but that's about it. But just doing that on the torso, you get lots of backwards motion, as well as some decent side-to-side motion. And then, that's all you get in the torso. Moving on to the legs, you got pretty decent split range. She's got a thigh swivel. She's got double-jointed knees. And then she's got an ankle rocker, which is always appreciated. And if I'm not mistaken, that is all the articulation you're going to get out of Marrow. All right, so according to comiccrossroads.fandom.com, Marrow stands at around 5 foot 8 inches tall and weighs around 130 pounds. This figure stands at around 6 1/4 inches tall and weighs around 4 ounces. Now let's see how she measures up to some other figures you might have in your collection. Here they are with SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Thouser and Jada Toys Street Fighter Cammy. Here they are with NECA's Bert and Hasbro's Marvel Legends Wolverine. Here they are with Figma's Marnie and Super 7's Casey Jones. Here they are with Jada Toys Mega Man and the NECA knockoff colored bandana Leonardo. Here they are with McFarlane's DC Multiverse Clock King and Hasbro's G.I. Joe Classified Cobra Commander. And here they are with Marvel Select Juggernaut and Colossus. Marrow is a character that I always thought was neat. I loved that they included her in the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 game, because at the time I had no idea who she was, and I was an avid Marvel fanboy from ever since I was a kid. Just so happened to be that that game came out right around the time when I was not actively reading comics, so the character of Marrow just flew right under my radar. However, I was an avid fighting game fan, and so when I picked up MVC2, I was like, who is this? And I was enamored. I was like, that's awesome. She's an X-Men character and a Morlock. I just thought it was really neat that they included such an obscure character in this game of just massive characters. And I've always appreciated the Morlocks because they weren't the beautiful, sexy, cool, passing mutants that the X-Men mostly were. And therefore, their mutant powers were often a little more interesting than that of their ex-friends. And Marrow is no exception, although she can pass a little bit, especially in the MVC version of the character. She's a little bit she doesn't have as much of her bone protrusions that are coming out. So, arguably she could probably live among the normal people on the surface, up where the people are. But that was my introduction to this character. And so I always thought that she was really cool and she was fun in the game, and I just really liked her design and everything about her. And I think Hasbro did a great job finding a nice mix of her game and comic appearances and blending them into a really nice figure for Marvel Legends. I mean, as far as the costume and the bone protrusions and everything, they look great. They look like a lot of what the character is based on, which is roughly the MVC2 version. And my favorite thing about it are the gold things on the hips and the shoulders. That just makes the figure pop, and it was something I wasn't expecting on this figure. And just, I don't know, it's a really cool design element to the sculpt and the paint of this figure, and I really dig it a lot. The rest of it is pretty simple. However, all the bone protrusions are really cool, and they've got their own texture to them, and they're not just like the same piece copy and pasted. They're all a little different, and I love that. Even on the knee pads, that's just really awesome. And they've got this like slight shading on them that's really cool. And then the same thing could be said about her swords, blades, whatever you want to call them. They look really cool. They got all the detail in them and everything. However, on them, the slight brown paint that's on them kind of makes them look like the bits and crumbles that's at the bottom of a bag of tortillas. Like, I don't know, maybe that's just me, but I think it kind of looks like that. But other than that, they look fantastic still. And I mean, I think it works to make them look like bone and all that, but it just also happens to look like pieces of a tortilla. Regardless of all that, I still think that the detail in the bones are really awesome and a lot more than I was expecting from Marvel Legends for them to put that effort in there. And I think it's really cool. The outfit is a little bland, but that is her outfit from the comics and from the game mostly. So, I mean, you can't fault them for just giving us what is actually there. And I'm not sure if I mentioned this earlier. She is very calipagious, which you don't need to go all out in that area, Hasbro, but I'm not complaining about it by any means, but it is worth mentioning. Always. Now, I already talked about the swords and everything, but the extra hands are really nice. Always appreciate extra hands. Would have been nice to have some open, kind of almost grippy hands, but like just out, like a claw kind of hand. But, you know, at least we got some options there. And then as far as posability, she's a lot of fun. She can get into a lot of poses, and thankfully, most of her outfit isn't impeding any of the articulation. So you can pretty much utilize almost every point of articulation, maybe outside of some of the shoulder articulation, but she's a lot of fun to just like get into all these action poses and whatnot. And so, you know, that's always fun. So as per usual, Marvel Legends does a pretty good job about making their figures look great across the line with all of their figures that they put out. She seems like she's kind of a good middle ground of like all of it, to where she could kind of work with pretty much anything outside of maybe some of the live action figures. But I think she can work with your X-Men 97 stuff, potentially. She'll definitely work with your comic figures, and I think she'll go well with your Gamerverse figures as well, which I'm sure that was like something they thought about when they were making this figure. And then she also looks really great with the Street Fighter and video game figures from Jada and SH Figuarts. So that's really cool, and I'm so glad they gave her a look that can kind of blend in with all of these different companies and figures. And so that's really awesome. And I think that, yeah, you'll have a pretty easy time making her work on whatever shelf you want to with any of those lines. So overall, I think this is a great addition to our ever-growing Marvel versus shelf. My only complaint about this figure, though, if I had to nitpick, is that I think the face is slightly too neutral for me. Now, while I'm doing this review right now, recording this, the lighting that I have in the room puts some shadows on her face that actually look really cool and give it a more aggressive look, which is something that I think I wanted more out of this figure. But whenever I get her in a lot more light, it's a lot more casual, neutral. It's still stern and still like focused, but just not as aggressive as I would like for this figure to have a look on her face. But overall, really great to have this figure in our collection, and I think they did a great job here. So if you're collecting figures from any of the Marvel Versus games, I think you'll definitely need Marrow. If you're collecting obscure mutant figures, then I think Marrow can still work there. If you're a fan of action figures showing their midriffs, Marrow shows it all. Or if you just like action figures of bony redheads, then Marvel Legends Marrow will make for a nice addition to the collection. All right, well, that's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button. If you want to see more from me, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments what's your favorite version of Marrow. Did you know about her before the Marvel vs. Capcom 2 game? And what other characters are you hoping they get into? Let me know in the comments. And until then, else time.